Hey, everybody, this is Jay Young with The Jay Young Show, and I'm really pleased today. We've got Jordan Soto, my co-host. Hey, Jordan.
Hello.
Man, it's unbelievable. We got a truly special guest in the studio today. Good friend and a very successful coach, Ryan Mitchell. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on today. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I don't know what success means. I said you're very successful, but we're going to have to find out what that means. I just got it written down here. And
Jay, 25 years of coaching, over 700 plus wins, 9-time state champion in Texas high school volleyball. I'd say that's a pretty success.
I don't know how you measure success, but, dude, that's exactly sounds good to me. 9 state championships? Wow. Well, you did number 8 and number 9 with us, so I know those for sure. 700 wins? That's a lot of wins. Man, that's good. Good for you. I'm not sure. I mean, is there that many losses, or did you count losses or just wins?
I try not to remember the losses. So.
There you go. That's good. Good for you. Ryan is the head coach at Prestonwood. There you go. Prestonwood Lions, Prestonwood Christian Academy. But also the executive director of Skyline Juniors, where he's taken the club to incredible success. I want to talk first about your background or where you came from or what. Let's talk about that first, then we'll get into your career. So where did you grow up? And
yeah, I was born in Missouri, so a Midwest guy, and then
show me
state. My dad was a pilot for American Airlines, and he moved our family to a small town close to here, Decatur, Texas, and wanted to raise us in a small town. And as you can imagine, not a lot of boys volleyball in Decatur, Texas. So it's probably my number one asked question is, how does a guy from Decatur, Texas get into volleyball? So
that was our first question. So there you go.
Man, you already got it. Oh, knock it off.
So I went to school at Dallas Baptist University, so here locally. And little known fact, Dallas Baptist University used to be called Decatur College. It was it started in Decatur when it was a small private school, and so now it's grown and become a mecca for baseball. But when I went to DBU, I actually walked on the men's volleyball team. It was an NAIA team at the time, and I just loved the sport. I loved to play, and had an opportunity to walk on a men's team there, and really just fell in love with the sport. And so that's kind of where it all started. I would tell you 25 years ago, even when I first started playing volleyball, if someone were to ask me, do you see making a career out of this? I would say, there's a career in volleyball. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I think my biggest thing is that when I graduated at DBU, I had a passion for people and I had a passion for competition, and volleyball just became the avenue of which to do those things. It's funny enough, I had a conversation with my son he's a senior right now, and my other son who's a freshman in college or sophomore in college. And they said, Dad, why did you end up in volleyball? They're just now asking me this now. And as they're kind of thinking about what they want to do. Yeah. And my advice to them, and I don't know whether it was right or wrong, but it's like, find what you're really passionate about and what you really love to do, and then find an avenue in which to do it. And I don't think it's really specifically, I think there are people that like, I want to be a doctor and they become doctors, but I think the majority of people are, I'm good with people. I love to talk to others. So sales is a good fit for me. Let me find an organization that I can sell. I had a passion for people. I loved the relationship building. There was a ministry portion of that to it, investing in young female athletes. And then I loved to compete. And so volleyball became the avenue from which that all happened.
Wow. I'll tell you a little quick story, Jordan. And I don't think I've told you this before, but when Michaela, my youngest, who's now at TCU, freshman at TCU, but when she was 12 or 13, I can't remember, at Skyline, maybe 12 or 13, I don't remember, Ryan, you probably know better, but Ryan sat her down and gave her a book and said, hey, I see this in you. I want you to read this book and I want to talk about it. And a 12-year-old, Ryan Mitchell, Coach Ryan Mitchell, gave a 12-year-old this book and said, hey, I see this in you. I mean, it brings tears to my eyes just thinking about it. I mean, that building.
What was the book?
at that, what was the coaching? I don't know what the book was. I never read it, but right. What was the book and why did you do that?
I think it was a Leadership Captain's Manual by Jeff Jansen. He's a pretty famous public speaker and leadership guru that does a lot of sports psychology stuff. But actually, there's a background to that, which is when I first started coaching, I was 21 years old, and I remember walking into a coaching clinic, and I was surrounded by all these gods of volleyball coaching, and I'm like, I know I want to be the best at this if I'm going to do it. And I want to be better than everybody in this room. What's going to separate me? I remember thinking that as a 21-year-old. What is going to separate me from these legends that have 500, 600, 700 wins? And at the time, there wasn't a lot of effort put into leadership, growing young women into being the best they could be, not only on the court but off the court. And so I saw these legends of the game that were really good at the X's and O's, but weren't putting a lot of time into the other stuff. And I thought, I can get the X's and O's down through clinics and mentorship, but I'm going to be the very best I can at growing and leading people and growing them into leaders. And I thought, if I could do that, then I could take myself from the average 95% and maybe try to be the top tier, the top 5%. And I remember that vividly. At 21 years old, I remember having that conversation in my head during a clinic. And so that's why I did it with Michaela. You know, I see something in a young lady, and I see where they're at and where I think they can be, and try to fill that gap. And that's the joy of coaching, really.
Wow.
You know, as someone who, I was a military brat, so we moved every 2 years, and I was also a gymnast. And so I had lots of different coaches. And unfortunately, a lot of the coaches will say that they have your back, and then you go to do a flip and they're not actually there. You fall on your face. It's happened to me more than once. And so whenever you have a coach, and on the opposite side, you have coaches who really understand you as an individual athlete and meet you where you're at, and then give you the tools for success, not just in the sport, but outside of the sport. And so for you to be able to go in and do that and invest in young athletes, particularly young women athletes, I think that is so important, because it builds so many other factors as well, from trust to building those leadership skills, to believing in themselves, and then figuring out how to be flexible and adjustable in the environment in which they're in. And so I think if you're able to, like you said, be able to contribute in that way, that's really profound.
Right. What are some of the best athletes that you coached? I mean, and how did you see them kind of start and progress and get to the college level or whatever? Who are they? And just kind of give me some examples of when you think, because there's no telling how many D1 athletes that you've coached. I mean, I know you got the number probably, but just kind of go through that, developing and seeing that through.
You know, and I'll try to name a couple maybe throughout this thing, but I hate to start naming them, because then inevitably I leave somebody out and I get a call or a text saying, oh, you don't think that person was very good, kind of deal. I will say that great athletes and the greatest ones I've had all possess similar characteristics, and it's probably no different than in y'all's line of work as well. Your greatest performers usually possess some of the same things. And one of the big things for me is being a constant learner. It's probably one of the most, the highest measure of success for athletes that I coach that really take it to the next level. Because when we're talking about all of them are great athletes, then what separates the great from the really, really great, the top 5%? And all the ones that have been really, really great have been masters of their craft. They've been lifelong learners. They want to get better. They study film. They ask great questions. And they're not scared to be wrong, to take chances, to make mistakes. And so, because that's where, growth happens. And then they're willing to, was it Gladwell that said the 10,000 hour rule? They're willing to put in the work, because there is this athletic component to, any great athlete, but there's also the I'm willing to put in the hours and hours and hours of dedicated work. And, whether it's been the Avery Carlsons of the world, or the Ebony Wanaboos, or the Annie Malloys, or the Makari Spears, or the, list can go on and on and on of these kids that we've had that have gone on to be Gatorade Players of the Year and all this kind of stuff. It's more about they all possess these things in them that make them great, and it shows up in their whole life, not just as athletes. That's what's so great about it. These guys are going to be successful young women in whatever they decide to do. Entrepreneurs like yourself, or whether they're stay-at-home moms, whether they're lawyers, whether they're doctors, the same skill set is going to push them forward in life.
Yeah.
When you're looking at your career and with all of the success that you've seen in this level, and we were talking about this just slightly before we came on air, and I told you I was going to save this question for now, but what is that next step for you? Is it going to college volleyball and coaching there? Is it what is the top aspiration, and then what is the next step to get to that for you?
I wish I had a map to tell you what that looks like. I will tell you that right now, for whatever reason, it's pretty high on the conversation in my household. There does reach a level of success where we're currently going for our 10th state title this year. And it's like, what's the difference between 10, 11, 12, 13,
Right.
It gets to be a point, and that sounds ridiculous to say, but like what, as a competitor, what's the next competition that you're trying to get to? And I think I will go back to my first statement, which is find what you love. I think it's really special. It's a special calling to be able to get or lead someone to be the best they can be. And so I'm going to find an avenue to have that, or have that as a priority in my next journey, whatever that is, whether it's in volleyball or whether it's another career choice. It will be centered around leading others to be the best version of themselves. And I know, and I'm not trying to be like generic guy. I'm trying to be like, this is pretty honest and authentic. And that is, I don't know what that looks like yet. I've been approached by some colleges. I've gone down that road a little bit. It hasn't been the right fit yet. I'm not saying it won't be, but it's going to have to check those boxes of getting to lead people to be the best versions of themselves. So,
yeah. That's great. I know you mentioned that you talked about speaking engagements, or talking about writing a book, or you're talking about there's just so many different things there. What do you think sets yourself apart from building Lovejoy, Prestonwood? What is it? I mean, what attracts athletes to you, or is it I don't know. How do you build up a program like that?
Yeah, I'm going to use a quote by my wife's favorite coach, Nick Saban.
Oh, we love Nick Saban.
Yeah. So my wife was a gymnast at Alabama, so she's a Bama girl. But Saban has a quote that said, "The human condition is to be average." And I think it's like there's nothing wrong with being average. That's what everyone tries to be. That's just what normal people are. They're average. They do the average amount to be successful, the average amount to be, to be great. I think that what has set the programs that I've been a part of is being able to be a vision caster of a standard, and the standard being really, really high. And then once you get athletes to buy into whatever standard it is you're setting, then really your job just becomes reminding athletes, people, to live up to the standard that they've already agreed to. And so really by year 3, year 4 into a program, the vision's already been cast. The standards have been set. And so not to say my job is easy, but it really then just becomes about reminding people, you've agreed to this standard, you've agreed to this level of success, and this is the way to get there. So let's get there. And so my job early is always vision casting and standard setting, and then my job late is just holding people to the vision and standard that they've agreed to.
How do you foster that in the beginning? How do you shape that culture in the team?
Well, I think it's important to have buy-in. So they've got to be a part of setting that standard and that vision, whether it's a certain amount of wins, whether it's a certain ranking. So I'll let them be a part of that vision setting because I do believe that in order to get buy-in, you've got to have the stakeholders, the investors, to be a part of whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. But then also, I think it takes a lot of energy on your part as a leader to come in excited about what it is that you're trying to do and allow them to believe that your vision is greater than any individual goals that a person may have. And that's another thing that's been so great about the successful kids that I've had, and really most of the athletes that I've had are very selfless people, despite, yes, they love the awards, they love the individual awards, but they've bought into the idea that when the team is successful, each individual is even more successful, And so they see the link to those two things, which is, it's maturity too on the part of young women.
Yeah. I think it's also you mentioned when we were talking the other day, you said, we've had so many people that wanted to come to Prestonwood, because, hey, you got state champion, and when you win, I'm sure Nick Saban says the same thing. He's probably got like 12 people deep in every position on his roster. Well, not anymore, but when he was coaching, and it's like, man, if you're winning and if you bring that culture, that there's going to be people that are going to be lined up, just ready to come. I mean, how was it between the first year winning at Prestonwood or Lovejoy, or I know that the Avery Carlson, I know that I talked to her dad before they moved to Lovejoy, and he's like, we're moving to Lovejoy. And I go, what is Lovejoy? I mean, it's like, what, where, when, what? And he goes, it's just it's a winning place. I mean, it's like, we're going to move there, and we got to move within the city limits. And I'm like, where is Lovejoy? What is Lovejoy? I mean, it's like, I don't know what it was, but it was like that whole, that whole experience in high school volleyball that just, he was talking about catching the fish and bringing it in, and, man, he was done. I don't know, man, I know you can't bottle that up and sell it, but boy, if you could, that would be really, really good. I don't know if is there a question in there, Jordan? Jordan, I'll leave with a question here.
I think what you're speaking to is, just like in y'all's line of work too, if you create something exciting, something different, if you create something that people can get behind and see a vision, then it really breeds a lot of excitement, and winning breeds winning. And in athletics, you win and people want to be around winning and winning cultures and a winning team. And so early wins were really important, both at Lovejoy and Prestonwood and even at Skyline. People want to be around winners. I think that's pretty obvious thing to say, but but yet it's not either. And once you create that, it becomes easier and easier to get people on board. I get accused all the time of like being a recruiter, you recruited people early to come to Lovejoy, and winning is what recruited people to come to Lovejoy, and winning is what recruits people to come to Prestonwood. I haven't actively talked to one person in 4 years at Prestonwood about coming to Prestonwood until they have approached me. Mm-hmm. And they approached me because you start creating this buy-in and you get other athletes to be excited about what you're doing, and you're so radically different than everybody else that people want to be a part of that. And so that's the excitement that you want to create, and you want to create this pride in your athletes that they're your best salespeople. They're your people that are out there talking about how great it is, and I really don't have to do much selling because the environment and the product is selling itself.
Yeah. Let's talk about the challenges that come with building a program and building momentum. What have been those key challenges for you, and then how did you overcome them?
Yeah, I think, early on, the challenge was I didn't know anybody, and here I was, this guy with very little volleyball success, and the challenge was walking into a room, and I've heard it called the imposter syndrome, where you don't feel like you're really qualified what it is that you're doing. And so just me personally had that challenge early on of kind of this imposter syndrome of I'm not qualified to be here. I don't have all these wins that these other coaches do. And yet I believe I can create what it is that they're doing. And I believe that I can even do it better than them. And is that arrogant? Is that imposter? Is it, whatever that may be? And so I challenge that a lot just internally, especially in the early years. That was a huge challenge for me. And then I would say being willing to be creative. I think outside the box a little bit. It's just how God made me, how I'm wired, and being willing to go out on a ledge and say, I'm going to do something a little differently than it's ever been done before, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. I think that was really scary at first. I think it's reaped a lot of rewards for me, but no one knew it was going to 10 years ago or 15, 20 years ago when I first started. Who is this guy and why is he doing things this way and that kind of deal?
Yeah. How much do you look at film? What's film? I mean, do you look at a lot of film, or do the best athletes watch more film than anybody else, or how does that work?
My brain is wired that way. I love the analytics of the game. I love the chess match, the game within the game. So I spent quite a bit more time than most high school coaches do on film. I think it's all measurable. I know you guys had Jason Williams on the other day. I know he's a big film nerd, and in college, you've got to watch probably more film than you do in high school, but there's not a day that goes by that I'm not diagramming film and looking for ways to be successful and score and find ways for my athletes to be successful. So film now it's at the touch of a button with your phones. You can watch it, you can dissect plays, you can look at your previous participation in practices and in games. And so technology has brought film and the game to the fingertips of our athletes, and it's really changing the way the game is coached and dissected at every level, every sport.
Where do you see the sport heading in the next few years? I mean, especially at the youth level, I see more popularity coming with volleyball. I think that men's volleyball is very exciting to watch. I love watching women's volleyball. When I went to college, UWF, they didn't have a football team yet, and so as a cheerleader in college, we cheered for the volleyball games, which was always really fun. Definitely different. But where do you see that the sport heading in the next few years, with it being at the touch of a button and with social media being an influential factor?
Well, the sport is growing. Just in terms of numbers, it's the fastest growing sport in North America. So it's catching up to the other sports. It's growing. It's becoming the sport of choice for young female athletes. It's an exciting time to be a part of the sport. So just the growth is happening, and with growth comes more eyeballs, comes more people, comes more coaches, comes people that are younger than I that are like looking for ways to challenge and innovate the sport, and so all those things are happening. And then the men's game is really taking and showing itself in the women's game now. The power, the aggressiveness, athleticism, it's really taking over the women's game to where if you watch most college Division I level teams, they now have a men's coach on their staff looking for ways to bring the game from the men's to the women's side.
Well, so that's probably one of the biggest things you see with volleyball. I know it's professional. Is there a professional team now, or professional teams now?
Yeah, there's several teams. There's 3 professional leagues that are all vying for the same dollar right now. The real big push now is to find places for young North American athletes to have a place to play without having to go overseas. So that's an area of the game that's really growing. Obviously, the stuff with NIL is taking the game to another, a whole nother level. And we're really on the precipice of the sport exploding even more. Every Wednesday and Sunday, our sport is on national television now. If you look at any of the ESPN broadcasts on a Wednesday night or a Sunday, and you'll see now volleyball as one of its primary, programming specials. So that's exciting to see.
Finally. So one thing that we really like talking about here on the Jay Show is talking about entrepreneurial spirit. And you've mentioned And Jay's mentioned that you've talked about writing a book and doing speaking opportunities and things like that. So talk us through a little bit about what that entrepreneurial mindset looks like for you, and how do you balance that with the day job and then the aspirational entrepreneurial spirit?
Yeah, public speaking, mentorship is just always something that's been a passion of mine. It's been something I've loved to do, and really have been challenging myself really in the past year to make a plan around, okay, what's next? When you want to hang up the whistle, when you want to be done actively coaching girls on a day-to-day basis, what could you see that next stage of your life being? And one of my goals, or like my dreams, has always been to write a book around this, around leadership and some of the things that I've experienced. And then I would really like to go and coach other people on how to do it. It kind of goes back to that, getting someone to be the best they can be. I love being on stage. I love talking in front of people. I love inspiring others. It's just like taking that, I guess, the stuff I do in a gym with 12 athletes into a bigger stage. And so really I've been trying to meet with people on a monthly basis around setting some goals around that. And so you'll be seeing some stuff coming out soon. So I'm hoping to, in the next year, that's kind of my goal, is to make that happen.
Very exciting. Well, Jay, I have one more question. I'll leave you with your last question as well.
Well, I was going to say, hey, I think it's great that you build up these programs and these young women into younger ladies. And I know that there's not, probably the Wednesday, Sunday games, there's probably not, you probably couldn't turn one on and not know half the team or all the team, or they played for you, or you've been around them, or you've watched them on film, whatever. It's awesome. I mean, a little guy from Decatur. I mean, just think about that. This guy from Decatur comes in, and he's on the national platform. He's got 9 state championships, going for his 10th in the next month, I guess, or so, or 2. You'll be named, hopefully. I mean, that's I don't see how you could not win. I think that it's yours to lose, right? Is that what they say? It's yours to lose, because you got the Livings, you got the Spears, you've got Taylor, you got all these different great players on your team, and you should definitely take that to the 10th state championship. So congratulations on that. But I was just I mean, to be in your presence and to think about how much you've really honed in on building up young women in the Christian faith, and the things that you've done is just I admire a lot. It's unbelievable. So
thank you for saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a great mentor, what a great father. I know all your kids, and unfortunate for Alabama last weekend against Vandy. We didn't talk about that one. I sent you a text about the one before when you guys hung on with Georgia, but the one last week I kept it silent. But no, just a great person, and an honor to know you, Ryan, for sure.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
When you're looking at your career and you are looking at all of the challenges that you've overcome, all the successes that you've seen, the steps that you've taken to go from one level to the next with your coaching, what advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Yes. I think that I would just lean into the idea of it's okay to be different. It's okay to be creative. It's okay to walk your own path. I think that would be a big part of it. I think I would lean into the importance of mentorship and menteeship. I've always been told that it's really, really important. And then when I was able to get a couple mentors that really poured into me, that's when my growth just shot to the moon. I had people that were willing to ask hard questions, be willing to be wrong, be willing to be creative, ask a lot of questions, get better, and then really invest in other people. And when people look to you to be invested in, take that opportunity, because you grow as well when that happens.
Yeah, that's the greatest thing right there. Just build up, because we get so busy and we forget. And I don't know how you set your goals on how many books you give out or whatever you're doing on these younger women, but I know you build into these younger ladies, and that is so awesome. And and they don't always get it at home. You don't know what's happening at their house, and to do that is just incredible. So, hey, let's wrap it up. Jordan, you got anything else you want to finish up with, or anything else? Or Ryan, do you got anything you want to conclude with, or anything on your mind that we've forgotten about?
No, I don't think so. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. It's always great to talk to, two business-minded, active people like yourself. It's great. And my world changed when I had a little daughter. I've got 3 other boys and then a daughter. I've got a 9-year-old now, and now it becomes even more imperative to raise up the next generation of young women that are confident, that believe in themselves, and that can, take over the world. And I feel like that's my job as a father. And it's driven home more now that I have my own daughter, the importance to have positive male role models in their life to point them in that direction.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's awesome.
It's been a pleasure talking with you today, and we look forward to seeing you on stage and reading your book within the next few years. So thank you so much, Ryan, for being on the show.
Thank you, guys.
And that 10th state championship, right? The 10th state.
Yeah,
awesome.
And more state championships.
Way to go.
Number 10. That's what we're going
10.
for.
Here we go. Visionary. Got to be the great. Hey, thank you everybody for coming to the Jay Young Show today. We appreciate you. Ryan Mitchell, go to Prestonwood Christian Academy. Great place to go. There's a few games left at home, that they have. Other than that, they're going to be on the state championship. Go to Waco and you can catch one of their games there. But it's incredible to see Ryan and what he's poured into these young women, which is just awesome. It's going to make me emotional. But anyway, hey, everybody, thank you so much. Ryan Mitchell, and we'll be back here next time. Jordan, thank you very much for being here, everybody. Thank you.
We'll see you on Wednesday.
All right, great.
Bye, guys.